It definitely was like very shocking and like really just didn't know what to do.
What started out as another day for Kirsten Smith on campus quickly turned as she exchanged texts with her friend.
A police officer came over to her and was like, "You need to like leave now. Like there's an active shooter. Like you need to get inside like anywhere." And she's like actively texting me this
The
right now.
sophomore
And
was in the library like many others studying for finals. She looked out the window and saw this.
people start getting notifications and texts from other people that something's going on, and chaos kind of like erupts on our floor.
An alert from Brown University confirmed there was an active shooter.
No one ever thinks that that's going to happen, especially because I feel very safe at Brown.
Smith says she, a friend, and several others locked themselves inside a bathroom until police could get them out.
We just sat on the floor in the dark for about 1.5 hours, like really unsure of what was going on.
She says the library is near the building where the shooting happened, which she says is considered one of the main buildings on campus.
I think everyone finds themselves there, even studying at some points. So yeah, it's definitely scary that anybody, like any of our friends or even me, could have been studying in there or doing anything at the time.
Now home for winter break, Smith is still trying to process what happened.
No one would have thought that people's lives could change like that, and that like families could be losing their loved ones. It's just crazy.
For more than 40 years, Western New Yorkers have come together for a menorah lighting ceremony in Amherst. One rabbi from the Shabbat House of Buffalo took the opportunity to reflect on the mass shooting that happened at a similar religious gathering in Sydney, Australia this weekend. He says while a security plan is necessary, he believes it's equally important for community members to spread a message of kindness.
Obviously, you have to take security measures and enforcement and whatever it takes that these things shouldn't occur, from a security perspective. But what each one of us could do in our own lives in spreading kindness and love and unity and warmth, that's something that each one could do in their own community, in their own home. And that has an effect, a little light expels a lot of darkness.
Local security expert Jeff Ronaldo says violent attacks like the one in Sydney often make organizations rethink their ability to host events, as well as the kind of security measures that will be needed.
Churches, synagogues, houses of worship, they're coordinating with their own security teams, they're hiring contract security, but most importantly, they're coordinating with local law enforcement so that they're aware of these events, so that they can have plans in place to appropriately police them and ensure for everyone's safety.
Ronaldo shares advice for those attending events. He says one thing to pay attention to is where the emergency exits are.
How could you get out of that space if you had to? Pay attention to your surroundings. If you see something suspicious, if you see somebody acting differently than the intent of the event, their behavior doesn't line up with why you happen to be at this particular event, report it to someone, whether it's security, an event organizer, law enforcement.
As Hamburg police spent a second day processing the homicide scene at the McKinley Parkway home of 71-year-old Loretta Jenny,
we are committed to a thorough and transparent investigation.
Her 33-year-old son arrived at Hamburg Town Court where, after being brought inside while shackled at the waist and ankles and barefoot, was arraigned on a charge of second-degree murder in connection with her death. During a proceeding where town judge Carl Morgan barred the media from recording audio, the defendant insisted on being called James Jenny McCullough, uttered several profanities, and at one point appeared to lunge toward the prosecutor before being restrained. Police say it was the defendant who called 911 to check on his mother's welfare Sunday morning, and that he was there when they arrived, eventually letting them into the house where her body was discovered.
We've had a previous history of domestic violence calls there dating back to 2016. He was arrested several times for domestic violence incidents where she was a victim.
It was revealed in court that the victim was fatally stabbed in the neck.
There had previously been court orders that were expired. The last one expired in 2020. Mother allowed him to live there. People love their children and they don't expect this to happen, and it's a tragedy when it does.
The judge granted the prosecution's request for a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation. They want that done as soon as possible. In the meantime, the defendant remains held without bail. On your side in Hamburg, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
For years, neighbors in Buffalo's Allentown neighborhood say this building was a problem they couldn't escape.
My thought is that, and strong feeling, is that nobody deserves to live next to a building that looks like this.
Buffalo police were called to 2 St. Louis Place at least 88 times over the past 15 years for trespassing, drugs, and crime. In one case, a body was found on the property. The property's owner, Charles Dubucky, was arrested back in April on outstanding housing court warrants and a charge of false impersonation, part of a long legal battle between him and the city.
It's official as of last Friday. The Erie County Clerk's Office does show that the city of Buffalo does own and is deeded this property.
Mitch Nowakowski, Fillmore council member for this district, says the city taking control clears the way for real change. The building will soon be listed on the city's real estate site, allowing buyers to apply to purchase it with exceptions.
The biggest responsibility is finding somebody who has the resources, the vision, and the understanding of what they're taking so that they can take this property and bring it back up to a productive use and to bring density and vibrancy to the neighborhood.
Nowakowski says this case sends a broader message to absentee landlords across the city.
Slumlords should take this as a warning shot that the city of Buffalo is using new tools to be able to hold derelict properties and landlords accountable. And once a property is taken by abandonment, it clears the title, the city owns it, and then is responsible for finding new ownership.
He says removing negligent owners opens the doors for reinvestment, especially in neighborhoods like Allentown, where vacant properties have sat for years.
Immediately following the Tops mass shooting, a SUNY Broome spokesperson told multiple media outlets that gunman Peyton Gendron was not currently enrolled. But documents obtained exclusively by Two on Your Side show an academic affairs employee and Gendron's advisor discussing concerns just 8 days before the mass shooting. Gendron was not attending classes and was on track to lose his scholarship, and faculty were unable to reach him. The advisor attempting to reach Gendron and getting no response, according to college records. Can you discuss a student quickly? One employee asks. No answer, no voicemail set up for Peyton, another responds. The documents do not show any further attempts to reach Gendron or his relatives in the week before the shooting. Instructors say his attendance was sporadic, with one employee personally writing to Gendron, quote, "Peyton, you did not take second test. I hope you are well." Gendron received grades for assignments as recently as April 13th, though he is listed as withdrawn from courses the following day, exactly 1 month before the shooting. On Your Side, Sean Mickey, Channel 2 News.
With the stroke of a pen, Governor Kathy Hochul established the State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies in December 2023. 2 years later, the commission is still holding hearings and getting input for recommendations.
We don't know what the recommendations will look like, but we do know that it's not just a form of cash. Redress could be in the form of policy.
The commission is tasked with looking at the legacy of slavery, discrimination against people of African descent, and the impact it continues to have.
We believe that there must be some form of redress, and we're looking forward to the research that develops over time.
The commission heard a lot from Western New York residents.
Buffalo talked about climate justice. Buffalo talked about generational economic exclusion, housing segregation, and the lasting impact of over-policing. We're also hearing about the trauma that families have experienced during post-slavery.
She said people want meaningful repair and investment.
When people hear the word reparations, they think of a check, but it's so much more than that. It's a possible tool, but reparations is much broader. It's fixing systems. It's creating lasting equity in the forms of possibly policy.
Recommendations will be based on what New Yorkers say they want.
New York is the second state to take on this heavy work of examining and studying the harms of slavery and the impact that still exists today.
After 7 years at the Market Arcade, AMC says it's ending its stay on Main Street in downtown Buffalo. Citing declining sales and a tough recovery post-pandemic, downtown moviegoers are disappointed.
It just really sucks to hear that it's closing.
The theater opened in 2018 after a multi-million-dollar investment by the Benchmark Group and became the first movie theater downtown in 4 years that eventually served alcohol.
I like to come here. It's only like 5 to 10 minute walk, so it's really beneficial.
Our energy and our our efforts were to try to keep AMC.
Benchmark's director of real estate telling 2 on Your Side the closure is a loss, but not the end, as they shift their focus to filling the space and getting a return on their investment.
We feel that it was great to have AMC in there for 7 years. They did a great job of running a theater. We will look for other uses for the space, other opportunities, just as we did, 7 years ago.
Buffalo remains vibrant, Delabovi says. The closest commercial movie theater to downtown is the Regal on Elmwood in North Buffalo.
Yeah, I think that'll be my next move, yeah.
AMC continues to operate at Maple Ridge in Amherst. On Your Side in Buffalo, Rob Hackford, Channel 2 News.
Scott and Mary Alice, the team here at Holiday Valley has already cleaned up the mess that a small avalanche made. A spokesperson for the ski resort says while an incident like this is rare, it's important for skiers and snowboarders to be aware that a snowslide can take place on the East Coast, including here in Ellicottville. The marketing director at Holiday Valley says it's hard to tell exactly when the small avalanche took place. He says it happened overnight sometime before Monday morning. The snowslide took place on a double black diamond trail called The Wall, which is not a run that's open right now. He says another small snowslide took place last year, and heavy snowfall can lead to avalanches even on the East Coast. He explains what caused this recent snowslide.
It's our steepest pitch slope, probably anywhere from like 30 to 35 degrees of a pitch, and it is a double black diamond slope. It's experts only terrain. So when you're at that kind of pitch and you're making snow on top of natural snow, like there is a chance that a slide occurs. Our ski patrol team and our mountain ops team does a fantastic job of monitoring that area, looking for any cracks that might occur and making sure that that location is as safe as possible.
The marketing director says the double black diamond trail where the avalanche took place will reopen later this month. On Your Side in Ellicottville, Chelsea Swift, Channel 2 News.
Hey there, well, that mound behind me, rock salt, is a holy grail for many Western New Yorkers looking to get their driveways and roads, sidewalks de-iced, and for local businesses too, the ones that supply them. But this new price increase could mean trouble.
We have three of these bins in the area.
In West Seneca, Brian Teft of TNF Seasonal Services is doing what he can to keep his salt supply up.
A little light right now. We usually have them stuffed all the way, but we're running into some salt issues. Price increase of $25 a ton, which is pretty large increase.
The increase is coming from major New York-based rock salt supplier American Rock Salt. Customers of the supplier tell 2 on Your Side that they received a letter notifying them that the price of the salt would increase to $25 per ton. That's about 20 to 30% increase depending on contract signed.
We're trying to provide a service and keep it as cost effective as possible, but ultimately we're paying 27% more for the product. We can't absorb all that cost.
According to Teft, American Rock Salt cited increasing difficulty in meeting New York State contractual obligations, particularly with winter weather being a little earlier than usual. The early start to the winter, something also being felt at Grabber & Sons in West Seneca.
Behind me now is a lot less rock salt than we've had at the same time last year or the year before that.
JC says he's also been notified of the price increase, and while it's another hurdle for his small business to manage, he also understands the complexities of working with such a large supplier.
I don't have anything bad to say about American Salt. I understand that the government contracts are probably the most important. They have to keep the streets and throughways safe.
And there are other options. Brian says that they're looking into working with other rock salt suppliers, maybe one in Lansing, New York. There's also one in Cleveland that they were considering. On Your Side in West Seneca, Alyssa Clausel, Channel 2 News.
The incoming Ryan administration deputy mayor for finance and administration told City Council's Finance Committee this about planning on Tuesday.
The folks working on this are looking at the best practices from the Detroit model.
The Detroit model means how the much larger city of Detroit, Michigan, which actually declared bankruptcy in 2013, really got help back then from foundations and even wealthy individual contributors to dig itself out of an $18 billion budget hole. Buffalo's current debt is only $35 million, but we heard this.
We are concerned in regards to the city's actual cash. We know cost is going up to maintain, to pay for personnel, debt, and pension.
Pension obligations rings a bell for an Axios business reporter who wrote this book, Detroit Resurrected, after covering Detroit's bankruptcy saga.
Pensions were a big reason why Detroit ended up going broke. They owed about $3.5 billion in unfunded liabilities.
Amidst difficult financial negotiations, philanthropy was also involved in Detroit's revenue rescue as part of the so-called grand bargain to help cover other city costs. Various family origin foundations like Kresge, as in the old Kmart chain, Ford, as in the car maker, and Kellogg, as in the cereal maker, jumped in to help. At one point, Kresge even bought 100 new police cars for Detroit to help with public safety.
That was how they ended up stepping in, contributing hundreds of millions of dollars in private funds, which was really shocking because that had never really been done before. You don't see foundations do this kind of thing. They tend to like to look toward the future and invest in future projects instead of looking toward the past and solving the problems that have been bubbling, for many, many years. But they believed that the city of Detroit deserved better.
So now, here in Buffalo, the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo is on board, maybe the Oshai Foundation, and of course the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, already active here in Buffalo and Detroit.
As we dig into the government and get a better sense of what specific needs we have or things that pop up, then we go to the group with a written request. For right now, the focus is on staffing up the government, bringing in talent, and also bringing in consultants.
Life insurance policies. Most people have one. But what if someone you love chooses medical aid in dying in peace and comfort? Your insurance policy stands.
The language that the New York legislators passed is very clear on life insurance. And it is very clear that life insurance will not be impacted because of using the Death with Dignity law.
Beneficiaries are protected. It's the same in other states. Peg Sandine is the CEO of Death with Dignity based in Oregon.
These are terminally ill people. So these folks are dying. And so they would qualify for their life insurance benefits because of the terminal condition that they have. And so it's important that just because someone uses a medication to control the timing and manner of their death, they shouldn't be denied that life insurance. It's
why she says legislators put the language in the bill so that there are no issues.
They had a contract with the life insurance company that if they died, their beneficiaries would receive a certain amount, and that's what happens. And so that's why this language is in the law to protect it.
This is unlike how an insurance company would handle a suicide.
This is absolutely not suicide. These folks have a terminal condition. They are dying. What is happening with medical aid in dying is they're just taking control about the timing and manner of the death.
Last week, it was an interim police commissioner, fire commissioner, public works commissioner, and community services commissioner. This week, it's a parking and finance commissioner. Mayor-elect Sean Ryan announced Go Bike Buffalo founder Justin Booth as the next parking commissioner for the city of Buffalo. Booth started Go Bike back in 2008 and has long advocated for improved safety along city roadways. And of course, city finances are top of mind for the Ryan administration, and they are adding Jessica Brown as the administration and finance commissioner for the city. Brown is currently the controller at the Erie County Water Authority and previously served as the director of administration and finance under former Mayor Buffalo Byron Brown between 2019 and 2022. She highlights on LinkedIn that she oversaw the grant writing and administered the city's $331 million American Rescue Plan program. As Inauguration Day nears, the transition team still has a lot of positions to fill.
The Ryan administration is right on track where we want it to be to fill the positions. We understood to get the best qualified people who fit within Mayor-elect Ryan's vision for the city of Buffalo. We might not have everyone in place, but what we're sure about is we will have the right people in place. And right now, I believe we have 6 commissioners already identified.
The Ryan transition team is rolling out these new positions in the wake of many longtime City Hall staffers being told that their services are no longer needed. They were encouraged to apply for jobs in the new administration. There has been some criticism about the timing of a letter that was sent out by the HR department in City Hall that some exempt position staffers would no longer be employed as of January 2nd. But as the transition co-chair Trini Ross points out, this is the first time in 20 years that there's been a changing of the guard in City Hall, and this is all pretty standard practice.
As with any new administration, people want to bring in their own executive team. I mean, CEOs do it. I did it when I was U.S. Attorney, and Mayor-elect Ryan is doing the same thing. So what he's doing is looking for the people who can help him effectuate the vision that he has for the city of Buffalo.
Every single week, dozens of people walk through these halls looking for help. They sign in for Medicaid applications, USCIS renewals, and help understanding doctor visits.
I don't know the exact percentage of how many people, that does have language barriers, but then there's a lot here in Buffalo alone.
Faustina Palmatier leads the Curing Society of Buffalo, working with refugee families from Burma, nearly 15,000 people in this region. She says healthcare is where language gaps can have the most serious consequences.
They signed consent that they didn't understand, or they did this because they thought it was, good for them, but nobody really explained to them what will happen.
That's why advocates are calling this new law a milestone. Earlier this month, Governor Kathy Hochul signed Senate Bill 6288, requiring every general hospital in New York State to create a language assistance program, ensuring patients can access care in their preferred language. For communities Palmatier serves, she says this could mean the difference between fear and understanding.
People will wait until they get to step 1, step 2, or step 3 stages of the disease, right? They'll say, oh, I will just take another because I'm scared to go, or I don't understand this. But then hopefully this law will help them to step up and go to checkup, annually. Okay.
Yami Lean knows that fear firsthand.
My family, my parents, when we came here, we speak very limited English. Every time they go to hospital, doctor appointment, I or my sister, someone have to always take off from school and take them to their.
Now an interpreter herself, Lee says language access protects patients and their families.
Applying for SNAP benefits and even just going to DMV, when you have very limited English, it's very, very hard. Passing this law, they have more safety, confidence and equity.
The chief executive of New York State was accompanied by the chief executive of the province of Ontario when the two appeared at the AKG Art Museum. Ontario Premier Doug Ford noted that his province has 19 operating nuclear reactors and promised to help New York in any way as it seeks to add to its current roster of 3 nuclear plants, the last of which was opened in 1988. In the meantime, Hochul has an ally in President Trump, whose Department of Energy recently funded 10 new nuclear plants in an attempt to meet the nation's explosive energy demands while reducing the time to license new plants from the current 10 years down to just 18 months.
So he has agreed to find ways to approach that with more urgency. We are working closely with the federal administration in this particular area.
Hochul announced her intent for the state to build a nuclear plant this past June, while conceding windmills and solar farms simply won't meet New York's growing demand for affordable, clean energy. Hochul claimed that 8 communities thus far have expressed interest in hosting a nuclear power plant, but would not identify them when asked by reporters to do so. On your side in the studio, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.